Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy SSJSK back with another what if video. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't done a Naruto one in such a long ass time, but I thought one that would be interesting to do today would be what if Naruto was never born. So, in order for this scenario to play out, let's just say that for whatever reason, Minato and Kushina decide to not have kids. Let's say because Minato feels like because he's gonna be Hokage or something, he doesn't have enough time to dedicate to being a good father, so they decided not to have a kid right away or something like that. So obviously, off rip, the first immediate change is that the Nine Tails incident would never happen because Obito wouldn't attack them because Kushina's seal would not be weakened. And because of this, the Uchiha clan isn't blamed for the Nine Tails attack, so they're not ostracized to the edge of the village, and thus the village politics doesn't spiral out of control for them to feel like they need to get a coup. And while I think it was acknowledged in the story that the Uchiha clan were not very happy when Minato became Hokage over Fugaku, I do think that their grievances wouldn't escalate as quickly as it did in the main story, especially when you consider the fact that Minato is not going to be as influenced by Danzo as Hiruzen was, so he's not going to be listening to Danzo's anti-Uchiha rhetoric. So with Uchiha still being alive, ninjas like Itachi and Shisui get to really, develop their reputations in the village further. Characters like Sasuke kind of retain more of the chill personality they had, in the beginning of the story prior to the massacre, and overall the Uchiha are in a better position. Other changes that would take place as well is that Danzo having less influence means that the root wouldn't be able to form, with as much presence as they had, so kids like Sai would just be enrolled in the academy as normal. Another change that would happen is that the Cloud Village, given the strength of the Hidden Leaf Village, wouldn't attempt to kidnap Hinata, so Neji's dad wouldn't be forced to sacrifice his life for the main clan of the village, thus Neji doesn't develop as significant as a hatred towards them. However, the most important change that's going to come up during Minato's initial time as Hokage is when Orochimaru is discovered to be doing his experiments. Minato, not having the same attachment to him that Hiruzen does, would not hesitate to end him if necessary. I think he would take him in for questioning, and I believe that when this happens, they would discover Danzo's involvement in Orochimaru's schemes. When it's discovered that Danzo has had Orochimaru make him Sharingan eyes, I feel like Minato would probably feel as though the Uchiha deserve a significant role in the detainment of Danzo and figuring out what to do with him after the fact. Because you have to remember, Danzo is one of the higher ups in the Leaf Village, so for someone this high up in government to be caught mistreating one of the most important clans in the village this way, it would be imperative that Minato keeps them on side by not only detaining Danzo, but having the Uchiha clan personally see to it that he is removed permanently from the picture. I believe that once this happens, Minato might also give one of the Uchiha clan a significant role to replace Danzo in the Leaf Village's advisory board. And if I were to guess, it would probably be Fugaku that takes up this mantle. So this would kind of go towards a long way of kind of placating the Uchiha clan and showing them that they are a valuable part of the village. With Orochimaru being taken care of, ninjas like Karen or Sugetsu would stay in their respective villages. I don't see any more significant changes happening in the Leaf Village, and one of the other changes that would take place due to Orochimaru being gone is that the Sand Village never decides to attack Konoha, given again the amount of strong ninjas in the villages. When we get to the Chunin exam finals, which I believe would be Sasuke and Gaara, when if Gaara goes on a rampage, I think Minato would help to make his seal better, given the amount of sealing jutsu that he would know from Kushina, and this would somewhat improve relations with the Sand Villages, although they would not be as close as they were in the original timeline. The Akatsuki, as we know it, would still go on to be formed. The only member that would be missing would be Itachi, and thus they would have to find an alternative way to recruit Deidara. So who knows, maybe Obito might call out to do it himself, given that it was really the Sharingan and not being able to overcome that was what was able to convince Deidara to join the organization. Jiraiya, probably being more in touch with Minato as the Hokage versus the third Hokage, would inform Minato sooner about the organization's existence, given his spy network, and Minato would probably look to act quicker in terms of suppressing the Akatsuki, given that his wife is literally a Jinchuriki, so he has an invested interest in making sure that the organization doesn't succeed in their goals. Granted, I don't think they would know what their goals are just yet, because it was only when Itachi attacked Naruto in the original timeline did Jiraiya, I think, really figure out what exactly the Akatsuki's aim was. However, they would just somewhat be on the Leaf's radar. And I believe around the time where the initial 3-year time skip would have began between Naruto and Naruto Shippuden would be when the Akatsuki would start making their move. The first significant battle that would take place in the timeline would be the third Kazekage, who in this timeline hasn't perished due to Orochimaru not being around, would fight with Gaara against Deidara, and in this situation, the Sasori would probably have to step in. So we would see an intense tag team battle between father and son of Magnum style versus two artists. And I do believe, because Gaara isn't as far in his character development yet, he wouldn't care as much about not using the village as collateral, and thus would fight a little bit more unrestrained. However, I don't think even with the two of them combined, there would be enough to take on both members of the Akatsuki. So this would lead to the death of the third Kazekage, as well as the capturing of Gaara and Tamari, if she's still at the Leaf Village at the time for the tuning exams that would have been going on at that point in the story. I believe that the Sand Village would send out a signal or request to Konoha to try to go rescue Gaara if they could. And I believe if this happens, then Minato would send out a team of Shisui, Itachi, Kakashi as the first team, and then a team of Team Guy as a backup as well. Given the multi-man nature of the battle, I do think that the battle might take longer between the third Kazekage, Gaara, and the Akatsuki. Thus, they probably wouldn't be as far into their ceiling of the One Tails by the time Shisui, Itachi, and the rest of the team catch up with them. Assuming this is the case, so Gaara doesn't perish just yet, I do believe that a team of Shisui, Itachi, Kakashi, and Team Guy would be enough to take down Deidara and Sasori in this situation. You also have to keep in mind that Deidara already showed an inability to deal with the Sharingan, so now he has 2 uses of that, as well as Kakashi, so really, I guess technically 2.5 if you really think about it, pairs of eyes to deal with. And on top of that, you have Might Guy and the rest of his team who are Taijutsu specialists as well. I also do believe Lady Chiyo would still go on that mission with them, given that she would want to see her grandson again as well. So I believe that, given all of these things, that they would be able to defeat the duo. However, I don't think they would be able to do it in time to save Gaara, and I think maybe Lady Chiyo would still maybe give up her life to save Gaara, depending on, again, how far along Gaara is in his development at this point. However, I think what would be significant is that they would probably keep one of the Akatsukis alive for interrogation, and I would probably think it would probably be Deidara, given that Sasori is puppet, so it would probably they'd have to get rid of him without incapacitating him. So I think that would be the first significant change going out of the Kazekage rescue arc. I think when they interrogate Deidara back in the Leaf, this is when they would really learn about the Akatsuki's true motivations to collect the Tail Beast. And I think at that point, Minato would make it a point to just kind of secure the border of any Akatsuki that would be coming towards the Land of Fire to deal with or try to capture Kushina. Now, by the time the Immortal Duo come to get the Nine Tails in the Akatsuki suppression arc, I do believe that Minato would have his markers set up for anyone that encounters them in case they are dealing with trouble. And I do believe this would come to a point when Asuma looks like he's in trouble. I believe that Minato would come in and it would aid them. And I believe that between Asuma, Shikamaru, Minato, and the other two special Jonin that were there, that they would be able to take down the immortal duo together, and thus significantly weakening the Akatsuki ahead of schedule. Moving on past the Akatsuki suppression arc, I do believe that Jiraiya would still get the intel about who the actual leader of the Akatsuki is, and he would still attempt to infiltrate the Rain Village. What I would also say though is, in a scenario like this, given that he would probably disclose to Minato who he knew exactly from the Rain Village, and that they had the Rinnegan, Minato would not allow him to go there by himself. He would probably accompany him along with probably another strong ninja like Shisui or Itachi as well. And I believe that between whichever combination of the three that you send, that they would be enough to deal with the 6 paths of pain, and they would be smart enough to figure out that they're being controlled remotely, and eventually confront Nagato, where I believe that Jiraiya will be able to kind of talk no jutsu him out of his plans of being the Akatsuki leader. Another part of their conversation that would go on while in the Rain Village would be that they would kind of make some concessions to Nagato to help improve the situation over there. Some like diplomatic things that you expect between leaders of villages and stuff like that. I also think that Nagato would warn them about who the man under the mask really is, and there would be complete shock, silence, and absolute fear when he tells them that the man under the mask is Madara Uchiha. So now they would actually have confirmation of who the true leader of the Akatsuki actually is. With the Akatsuki numbers dwindling, I believe that Obito would go out of his way to go hunt down Killer Bee himself, and as much as I love Killer Bee, he ain't dealing with Obito respectfully, so he's therefore captured and sealed, and that leaves only the Nine Tails. And I believe a pissed off Obito would go to the Rain Village, would fight Konan and Nagato, off both of them with the help of Zetsu and Kisame, and then eventually take the Rinnegan. And when he does take the Rinnegan, he's going to do what he did in the War arc, where he has the Jinchuriki come as like his 6 paths of pain, and at that point I think he's going to basically go all out declaration of war on the Leaf Village. The assault on the Leaf by Obito would be one of the most epic battles ever seen in the Naruto world's history. On one side you have Obito, like the 8 Jinchuriki, as well as Kisame. On the other side you have Minato in Sage Mode, Jiraiya in Sage Mode, Might Guy, Kakashi, Fugaku, East Shisui, Itachi, a Sasuke without Mangekyo, as well as the rest of the village kind of propelling the assault. And you would probably just see like lots of different battles going on. You have Shisui and his Susanoo versus the 2 Tails, Itachi versus the 3 Tails. You have Might Guy fighting Kisame in his Shark Mode. You have Kakashi and Minato going up against Obito. And I do believe that the ninja would be able to push back against the 6 paths Jinchuriki, as well as to off Kisame. And when that happens, I think that especially once they discover the link between Kakashi and Obito's Sharingan, eventually Might Guy, using the 8 inner gates, as well as being flanked by Minato and the rest of the Uchiha, as well as Kakashi, will do just enough to get rid of Obito, thus stopping the Eye of the Moon plan. I believe at that point Zetsu kind of scurries off, and unfortunately just has to wait until whatever generation he can try to manipulate next to bring back the revival of Kaguya. So anyway guys, that's going to be the video for today. So as you can see, without Naruto being born, lots and lots of things change, and you're still able to come up with a positive ending. Let me know what you guys would have changed about the story. Let me know if there's something I missed. Let me know if there's any other what ifs you guys would find interesting. But most importantly of all, remember to have a good day.